What's up, everybody? Welcome to The Stack. I'm Alex.
I'm Justin.
I'm Pete.
And on The Stack, we talk about a bunch of books that come out this week. And, this is a packed week for comics. So let's not waste any time and get right into it with New History of the DC Universe, #1, from DC Comics, written by Mark Waid, art by Todd Nauck and Jerry Ordway. This is I'm not quite sure what to call it. It's not exactly a reboot or a revamp, but back in the day, there was History of the DC Universe. This is Mark Waid doing his take on it on the new revamped continuity of the universe as it aligns with DC All In. And we're getting it through the lens of Barry Allen writing a memoir about the history of the universe since he's seen it all. And it's going to take us from the very beginnings to, in the 4th issue, we're going to get a little tease for what's coming up in the rest of DC Comics going forward. I will say up front, first of all, great art from Todd Nauck and Jerry Ordway, who are drawing really the entirety of the DC universe. This is much more encyclopedic than I expected it to be.
But I love that. First of all, they're sort of bringing some Darwin Cook energy. If you've been longing for that since the too early death of that great creator, like this has that energy and it's really deployed well. But man, this is just such a satisfying read to have all these timelines and different aspects of the DC universe put in a row. I mean, maybe we're in too deep, but that is deeply satisfying to me, to be like, that happened and then that happened. Oh, nice. Shouts to the Shade mentioned in here. I really appreciated that. But man, this is just a great read.
I agree that like the Darwin Cook energy, especially from this cover here, is great. I mean, it's cool to have something like this. I don't know what it is about this that struck me as weird. It was kind of, I like the way Fred Van Lente and his team did the history of things. There was like a seriousness about it that threw me a little bit. Like it was almost like a Bible telling that it was just, I don't know, the seriousness vibe that kind of it threw me a bit. And so I don't know what that is about me or maybe my problems.
I hear you. I like this, and I respect the ambition of it, and I hear everything that Justin is saying as well, but there isn't necessarily an attempt to tell a story here so much as this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened in the following order. It's not my personal preference, which, mind you, is a little more ridiculous, is something like the Grand Design books over at Marvel, which are like, yeah, we're just going to tell this story, the story that they've been telling over the entirety of the history of X-Men, where there's to what Pete's saying, like this extra layer of like, this makes no sense. Like when you line it up, like this makes no sense. Yeah. Mark Waid, who is a human walking encyclopedia, is like, well, this makes sense to me because I could tell you this story with no prompting. Yeah. Like I saw him at WonderCon and he was talking about this and they were like, what are you referencing to write New History of the DC Universe? And he pointed at his head. And I don't doubt it.
That's
I
baller.
100%
That's such a baller thing to be like, here's the new history right here.
Yeah.
Ba ba ba. Stay tuned.
Well, and he knows it. And he is laying it out. So
he's extremely smart.
I think this is a matter of preference of what Justin is saying versus maybe where Pete and I are leaning. But regardless, I'm going to keep reading this because it is interesting to have it all laid out in a row.
Well, but here's the thing, it's not a connected narrative. There's not a dramatic arc. There couldn't be. He is laying out events like a history book. Here's how you enjoy this book. Imagine Mon Mothma from the original trilogy just reading this aloud to you. Many Bothans died, and also the Guardians created Green Lantern.
You're right. I mean, to me, it's like, oh, Flash is telling the story. Cool. My least favorite DC. Cool. I'm so out already. You know what I mean? Yeah, this wasn't in my wheelhouse, but I do think it's amazing.
It's a crazy reason to be mad about this.
I'm not mad about it. I'm just saying, I wanted to be in, but for some reason it wasn't letting me. But yeah, I do think that this is a cool thing to do, and I do think it's in great hands. So yeah.
Ultimate Spider-Man number 18 from Marvel, written by Jonathan Hickman, art by Marco Checchetto. Lots going down this issue now that Harry Osborn is officially back alive. He goes and picks up Spider-Man. We're getting a burgeoning war between the Sinister Six back in New York City. Lots of other stuff going on here. Pete, you have a question.
Yes, is Justin furious? Is what I was wondering while reading this. You know what I mean?
What? Why?
Well, first off, Black Cat, one of your favorite characters, but Black Cat in this book is maybe not the.
Here's the thing: romance. Anytime there's a romance with a black cat, like stuff gets a little crazy. Gets a little like
How are things going with you, by the way? That you and that black cat you found on the street?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, the black cat keeps stealing very large diamonds from my apartment, and I
you gotta be running out of diamonds.
I told you this a million times. Do not store them in the yarn because that's going to be the first place the cat's going to look.
Yes. No, and we're going to talk a little bit about cat stuff with especially Pete, specifically Puffing the Fluff in a couple books. So I have some definitely. Let's not talk too much about cats here because we got a lot of cats.
But
to later on.
Justin or Tyler Hart, as maybe you go by. I just want to say that, like, I think that Black Cat is this interesting character, right? Where, like, she does bad things, but we want her to be good. We want her to, you know what I mean? But in this issue, obviously it's a younger, different Black Cat, but it seems like she's selling people out and maybe the main villain. You know what I mean?
You ever been attracted to someone who's a little bit on the edge, Pete?
I don't know. Maybe.
You don't know? I think you know.
I would have to stop and think about it.
Who's the first person you thought about, Pete?
Exactly. I know there's an answer. 100%. I know you had an answer there.
There was a pause there right before you said, I don't know, where the picture of the person was in your brain.
Yeah.
Wow.
He leaned back so hard in his chair, the chair almost had the answer for us.
Yeah.
Again, this comic is moving in so many different directions, yet still always driving forward because of this time crunch on it. I really think the way that they've incorporated Peter and Mary Jane's kids, specifically their son, Richard, who is in his own Spidey suit, is great. I really like that side of it. This comic is wheeling and dealing and doing business, and I am here for every part of it.
To talk about, I just wanted to mention about the timeline thing before I forget. Having that as a cliffhanger at the end, knowing this takes place in real time, and we're leaving these characters, like, not leaving these characters to the month in the real world where we'll pick right up, but leaving them in like, oh my God, all this time is going to pass. What's going to happen to them? It amps up the tension to crazy amounts.
It's crazy how hard that's working. I can't say it enough.
What's nice is I do feel like I'm getting Spidey in this Ultimate Spider-Man, so I feel very good about that. And I just thought the scene between Otto and Spidey being like, "Are you wearing my slippers?" was just so great, and I felt like
you gotta be careful with a roommate.
Yeah.
Void Rivals number 20. That's another name for roommates from Skybound and Image Comics, written by Robert Kirkman, art by Conor Hughes. You know, we missed an issue, talking about an issue, and I'm furious that I forgot to put it in the stack, which was a Suckzoid-focused issue showing how Suckzoid got cut in half and became two Suckzoids. And not only are there two Suckzoids, there's an entire society of Suckzoids that are all made out of the same Suckzoid, and that's partially what we're dealing with here. I believe some other things are going on with the other characters, but frankly, I don't care.
Oh, wow.
Wow. And let me say, Pete, I feel like you ride for this book.
Yes.
Do you still ride? You continue to ride.
Yeah, I mean, we got Rucka, in here, which I was just so excited to see. This is such a great kind of Kirkman giving us Transformers animated movie, which to me is just one of the best Transformers. There's just all these Easter eggs constantly, and my younger childhood self is just having a blast with this and continue to do so.
How is your older adult self doing?
Just excited to have my childhood along for the ride. You know what I mean? It's nice to have company.
And so, what do you drink? A big cup of the purple stuff?
Purple Saurus Rex, baby. Come on.
I mean, before you get to the Sunny D, obviously, and that takes you back to being a child.
And when your child is along for the ride, is it like a motorcycle sidecar situation, and you're on the main seat, and your childhood is in the little sidecar, and you're like, put on a helmet, and it's like,
don't let little LePage drive. that guy can't drive.
You can't reach
a horrible
the pedals.
idea.
Here's the thing with this book is it feels like it is like an Easter egg machine, but then I'm like, I don't know what the main drive here is. Like, we keep getting, it feels like a collection of side quests to the point where like we have our main characters being like, man, we should really get together here. We should be not fighting, and then they're fighting, and like it just feels like the characters aren't driving the story. The story is just like is being slots for these characters to keep continuing to exist. And I guess I just don't know. It feels like the name of this book is very apt. Void Rivals. There's a void at the center of this book, and I want that to be filled with something that can really take us. Handroid is the character I understand and track them.
Dude, they talk to the Handroid's letters page is so much fun at the back.
Yes.
Yeah, it's one of my
Justice
favorite
League Unlimited, my inner adult is loving that part. I love letter pages. Justice League Unlimited number 8 from DC Comics, written by Mark Waid, art by Dan Mora. This is the final part of the We Are Yesterday crossover as the Justice League from throughout time battles the time-lost Legion of Doom, led by Gorilla Grodd, who is now Gorilla God, because he has Omega energy from Darkseid. Cool. And at the end, we're leading into the next crossover, that's going to be coming in October, as a bunch of time dudes start teaming up.
Time dudes.
Oh, time dudes. It's about time for some dudes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Giving up across time dudes.
Just first off, badass group shot cover here. This is fun. I think this is a blast. Very epic. I feel like Waid is just absolutely crushing this. This is just a fun giant battle. Amazing art and action. I'm very much enjoying this and along for the ride. So I can't wait for what's to come.
Beautiful art, big story. I like the incorporation of the time trapper stuff that is over from the Superman side of things. That is fun. We're setting up this inevitable crossover with the Absolute Universe that is cool. I think that's cool. The only thing is, I feel like the anxiety coming out of this is the Absolute Universe is going so well. Those stories are so good, and they're not even crossing over internally. Mm-hmm. Yet we're heading toward the Absolute Universe crossing over to the DC Universe. And I worry about the damage that's going to be done to these great stories on both sides.
Here's my theory, just based on how things are going right now. I don't think we're going to get a full-on crossover in October. I think what we're going to get is a DC all-in event where they'll like peek through and see Absolute Batman, and he'll be like, huh? Or something like that. But I think big. I'm big. That'd be fun if Batman's like, whoa, that's a really big Batman. Oh my god.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, I'm tiny little guy.
Oh my god, I gotta work out.
Shatters his confidence. You think it'll really shatter him?
Should be really bummed out for the next year. No, I think they're gonna like do this on the DC all-in side. They're bringing in the evil Legion of Superheroes into the Superman book. I think we're gonna get it in that universe, and they're gonna touch on it and broach the subject a little bit. But I think they really are going to let the Absolute Universe still sit and grow for a while. I assume the plan is at least for another year, and then have them crash together in 2026. But we'll see.
We'll see. Another thing, I did like seeing all the different 90s early aughts characters in here. We were talking on the Discord about Aquaman and the Peter David run that was Aquaman Time and Tide, a 4-issue limited series that led into his run where Arthur famously got his little hook hand, spear hand. And it was great to talk about that and then have it here. A run that I would recommend highly if anyone likes some good Aquaman storytelling.
Fantastic Four, number 33 from Marvel, written by Ryan North, art by Cory Smith. This is sadly the final issue of the title. Weird time to cancel it right before the movie. But there's a new Fantastic Four number 1 coming out in July that picks up, also written by Ryan North. However, this is wrapping up a bunch of arcs, including Ben Grimm losing his powers and the rest of the team losing their powers because of that. They figure out a way to get around it, and it's all down to Herbie. This is a Herbie-focused issue. I thought, like every issue of this title, it was great and heartwarming and creative, and I really liked it.
Yeah, it's sad that I'm curious if the new number 1 is truly just a new number 1 or if they are going to change the tone at all of this book. Because what I've loved about this book is it's always rooted in some actual real science, and it just gives the Fantastic Four such a true statement for and premise for their title. And we get that here. They go back to the Big Bang to get Ben and everyone's powers back. It goes wrong. Herbie gets to be this amazing hero moment, and Jordan D. White on our live show this week talked about hearing Ryan pitch an issue of Fantastic Four and how it was super emotional in the room at a Marvel summit. He's an editor at Marvel. And then to see the book. And I just feel like that really hit me, because I will feel such a loss if we're not going to get these emotional, deep, science-based superhero stories that we're getting from this comic.
Well, first off, there was on the cover here, we see the 4 is crossed out, and it's, it says 0, which got me worried and was like, oh shit, right from the cover. And then I realized, since the next issue is going to be a number 1, this is like a 0 issue. But all that aside,
wow, you really found a way to be mad at that.
When I see a 0 kind of thing on the cover, I get nervous. But I do think
when you encounter a 0 in real life, like on like a sports jersey, or on like when you pay your bill and they're like owed 0, are you like, fuck you?
Yeah.
What did you say?
Yeah, I fucking hate 0. I'd rather give you $1. I do think that this is very touching. Herbie fully loaded aside, I did think the father-daughter moment was very nice and very moving. And I do agree that Ryan North brings a lot of heart to his stuff, which is always great. So sad to see this kind of move on, but interesting to see what the new start will be.
One last question. Have we ever got a real Reed-Valeria confrontation? Or like a rivalry? I do think that's an interesting potential story. As I was reading this, she just comes in, she's like, here's how we do it. And he listens and sort of is like, well, what about this? Valeria is putting Reed in the Doctor Doom position that created the Fantastic Four, where he always felt less than. And I'm curious if that's a pattern that we're going to see again.
Well, and you have a rivalry with your daughter, right?
Because your daughters hate you, right? So how does that work?
Similar skills, yeah. My daughters are really rising up. They're both line producers, something I never have been. And that's a real bummer.
They're taking over.
Yeah. They started a podcast called Children's Book Club.
Yeah.
Lazarus Fallen, number 1 from Image Comics, written by Greg Rucka, art by Michael Lark. This title is coming back for a final bunch of issues. It's a little complicated. I think it's running for 20 issues is the plan.
20 issues.
Yeah. But,
spaced out pretty intensely, so that's okay. We got some time with it.
And boy, there's a lot of back matter there where Greg Rucka explains that quite in depth, as well as a bunch of other things, which is, I know I'm being a little glib, really well worth reading. But if you've never read this book, first of all, definitely don't start here. But second of all, it takes place in a future world where the world has been divvied up between corporations. There's a woman named Lazarus who is a unstoppable killer who works for one of those corporations, and things get more complicated from there. Getting into this last series, a lot of this issue was spent playing catch-up, which normally I wouldn't love, but I did love here because it's been a really long time, and it was very helpful.
Yeah, I mean, each family. So just to set it up a little bit, this is a future where corporations run the earth. Their governments have fallen away. Families are run. Each family has a Lazarus, which is their sort of undying weapon. We follow Forever Carlisle and her story through her family, the Carlisle family, and what has happened. I won't spoil too much if you haven't read the previous series, but the way that they put this book together and the fact that it's commenting on the nature of the world, that's what the back matter has always been in this book. And it has just got more prescient and real. Greg Rucka is constantly talking about AI, corporate takeover, government weakness, the way money treats people. And man, it's scary. That's why I'm so excited this book is back. It's great action. Michael Lark's art is fantastic. I've loved him since he was doing Terminal City back in the day, if you've ever read that comic. And it's just great to have this here. Great book.
I do agree that this is great, but we haven't touched about one of the greatest things about this comic, which is surprising, is it starts off in Rochester, New York. Come on! alone. You know what I mean? I got real excited. I was like, oh my God, are they going to have garbage plates? Are they going to go to the Lilac Festival, that just happened?
And there's 19 more issues. Any of those things could happen.
So maybe they'll swing by Canal Days. I don't know what's going to happen, but I was very excited about the location, the start of this. All that aside,
definitely Google any of that stuff that Pete just said, please.
Fun last page reveal. I love this back and forth spy thriller stuff. It's very interesting, unbelievable art. The twists and turns for this is just makes it so worth it. This is really well written and well thought out.
Absolute Martian Manhunter #4 from DC Comics, written by Dennis Camp, art by Javier Rodríguez. In this issue, talking about things that are too real, a heat wave has hit the city. I hated reading this book.
Too
it is
soon.
A scorcher here in New York. Went up above 100 degrees today, so really
also
felt
in
it
PA.
while reading it. Also in PA. So really felt it while
Well, you
reading
have the
this book.
country. You can just get roll in some mud or whatever. Like
What?
A dog.
Yeah,
So
like
you
a pig,
cool
like
off.
a little piggy. You're like your inner pig really felt it.
Wait, you think it's cooler out here for some reason?
Well, you have all those trees, right, Country Mouse?
Shoot, covering. Yeah, country
What?
mouse. You don't have the hard pavement just shooting the heat right back at you.
Yeah.
You have a dirt floor in your home, right?
We set record yesterday for the highest. So I don't know what you.
See, the fact that you know that proves that you're a country bumpkin.
Well,
You're
yeah, don't you have
great news? Big record set of the temperatures today. So.
swim in the creek? You could play music, with your pals and your jug band. You can do whatever you want.
You could run through the sprinkler and drink from the hose or whatever.
Wow, drink from the hose. Yeah, first off, I mean, this is worth it for the art alone. I mean, this is just unbelievable artistic achievement here. The panels, the use of colors. And as we all know, Martian Manhunter is not good at marriage. Yikes, this is stressful. This is a fucking brutal read. The heat aside, this is tough to see the Martian Manhunter kind of go through this kind of stuff. But artistically, it's impressive. This is continues to be such a great thing. I'm having a blast with this absolute event.
Each issue of this book is building on itself so well, both artistically and from the story perspective, as our main character slips further and further away from the man that he once was, and we get a lot of that here. It's just a really great synergy of the story and art. There's the first 2 pages have just some not narrative-driven art on it, just like really interesting stuff that is just for interest's sake, and that's how you can tell this book is being confidently made.
Yeah, also the kind of this idea that this is kind of like Alien for the Martian Manhunter, yet the art has this kind of unique kind of style. It just fits really well as a package. It's really impressive, the artistic style and what's happening here. Sorry to kind of dwell on this, but
No, it's a fantastic book. I do think we're going to talk about another Dennis Camp book later in the stack that's a little more blatant in terms of what it's saying about the world, but I do think this issue is about climate change. The book in general is about what is driving us apart, the forces that are just out of sight of the man on the street, and that's what we're dealing with here in this issue as well. So it is really smartly done. It is very nerve-wracking to read, but like Pete's saying, Javier Rodríguez's art and layouts are absolutely stunning. Giant Size Age of Apocalypse #1 from Marvel, written by Jackson Lanzing and Collin Kelly and Jeph Loeb, art by C.F. Villa and Rafael Luero and Simone DeMeo. Miss Marvel and not exactly Legion, but the powers of Legion are stuck traveling through time. Now they've ended up in Age of Apocalypse per the title. And on the backup story, Jeph Loeb is getting ready to bring the Apocalypse X-Men to the main 616 universe. There's a new miniseries coming starting in September, so we get a little preview of that.
A Wrinkle in Time.
A little mixed about this series of one-shots. Justin, I'm curious to hear from you. Do you feel like this one was a step up, a step down, or a step straight across?
I think this one was a step up. I like some of the moves here. There's a moment where Ms. Marvel encounters another version of herself in this universe, which I thought was cool. I think I just love the Age of Apocalypse universe in general. This issue made me wish we just had an ongoing series where we got to just be with these characters and have just longer form storytelling. It feels like there's been a lot of reference to that. We're getting that with this new Jeph Loeb series, it seems like. So definitely looking forward to that. Not necessarily based on the backup, though. I feel like this is focusing on a more aggressive thing than I wanted to for what we were going to do with this world. But we'll just have to wait and see about that.
I agree with Justin with the step up. I feel like the giant size moniker was earned with this issue. This is very badass and fun. This really feels like a big Marvel kind of event, and it's cool having kind of like Legion and Apocalypse kind of going up against Miss Marvel and others here. So I feel like this is just awesome and very kind of epic and sad. I mean, we see spoilers here, but Rogue gets squeezed like a grape, and that was really gross. But,
maybe she's going to become a great wine.
I feel like sometimes they just use giant size, but this really felt big enough to kind of bring that back and dust it off and felt kind of epic enough.
What I think really worked about this issue is not only did they bring together the thread about Miss Marvel's mutant powers and her nervousness about them and what they're going to do, but also, like I've been kind of comic book brain complaining about with the first two issues, where it doesn't really make sense that she's just running ripshod through time. Here, this is an alternate universe where they can do anything, and it doesn't necessarily be like, wait, what does that mean when she gets back to the present? Because this is already a dying universe. So I think that allows the writers to go a little wilder with what they're doing, and that's what I want out of this series.
And it felt more purposeful that she was in a place where being a mutant, it was very different. And she's like, I sort of wish I wasn't a mutant. Like, there was a really nice emotional resonance to it, and it felt like, oh, this is where... And I think leading into the next issue, which is set in the House of M, I feel like they are ramping up the emotionality and in a good way as the series goes on.
News for the Fallout, #1 from Image Comics, written by Chris Condon, art by Jeffrey Allen Love. We have the team on the show a couple of weeks back and talked to them about this book. It is pretty phenomenal artistic achievement, in particular, not to diminish what Chris Condon did here, but it is set back in the day. Is it the 1940s? Am I remembering that wrong? Where they're doing a bunch of nuclear testing, and it either goes horribly wrong or horribly right, depending on who you ask. But it leads to a surprising situation that I don't totally want to spoil here. By the way, I'll put a blanket spoiler warning on the whole show. We should have done that at the beginning, but whatever, we did.
But here we are. We're just dealing with the fallout.
Yes. We did talk about this on the live show, but what I was most impressed about here is... everything, it feels like artistically it's a shadow play almost, which I think really plays off the idea. We see this a couple of places, unfortunately, but particularly in Hiroshima, where nuclear blasts leave the ash shadows on the wall. And that's what the images look like here, which I was very struck by throughout the book.
Yeah, it says in the kind of first panel, it says 1962 Atomic Valley.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
No, it's all right. I just wanted to look it up to correct. But I do agree with the Zelbatron that this artistically is very impressive. The black and white, the powerfulness of what it's saying and how it's sitting in it. And I think the lack of words makes a great artistic choice to kind of sit in these panels a little bit. So, yeah, visually very impressive. Really love this book. I mean, not to sound like a broken record, but really worth it for the art alone.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I made this reference on the live show as well, but it reminded me of the most recent season of Twin Peaks. It was on Showtime. There's an episode of that is like the episode, episode 8, and this just feels like that. That's about also a nuclear test and the intensity and darkness that spins around such a moment of atomic import. And this has that same energy in a great way. And I also feel like there's just a purgatory nature to this comic that I think the art and the story are really rhyming with.
Oh, there's a very specific comic this reminds me a lot of in a complimentary way, but it's a big spoiler, so I'm not going to say it. So maybe remind me with issue 2.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Superman number 27 from DC Comics, or if you want, hit me up online, anybody who has read it, and I'll let you know what I'm saying. Superman number 27 from DC Comics, written by Joshua Williamson, art by Eddie Barrows, Eber Ferreira, and Sean Isaacs. Big stuff going down here. Lois Lane no longer has her powers. Lex Luthor wasn't evil, but now maybe he kind of is, or at least he has some stuff going on.
No way. He's a good guy, Alex, now. There's no way
Superman is dealing with his red rage powers, which are different from his golden powers that he has over in Superman Unlimited. Generally, I think we've been liking Joshua Williamson's run. What do we think about this issue?
It's sad to see Superman lose his rage. It was one of the things I liked about him. But yeah, a lot goes down in this issue. I felt like there was some real touching moments. The Maryland Moonlight curing his rage was kind of good for him, but sad for me. But the Supes and Lois Lane kind of flying together like they did back in the day was kind of a nice, touching moment, I felt like.
Yeah, I really like the moment when Superman and Lois fly, sort of dealing with her loss of power and their connection, reestablishing their connection as a relationship, is nice in the midst of just so much chaos happening between Superman having red kryptonite madness, and then was the stuff we get at the end where we have the Doomsday character, what's his name, Timekeeper? No, who is out there just becoming a major part of the DC universe. Time Trapper.
Yeah. Spider-Boy number 20 from Marvel, written by Dan Slott, art by Paco Medina. We haven't read this book in a bit, but I thought it was worth checking in because this is not just the final issue of the series, but it's Dan Slott's last comic for Marvel. Wow. At least for the time being, he is moving over to DC and doing stuff over there. But in this issue, Spider-Boy is in charge of a group of ninjas. Spider-Man is not particularly happy about it and trying to figure out what to do. And in the meantime, we're wrapping up a bunch of other threads from the book. I'll say I appreciated the fact I was fully expecting this to be like, here's Dan Slott's mission statement on the entirety of the Marvel comic book universe. Instead, he just delivered a really good, really fun, solid issue of Spider-Boy that tied up the series, and I really respect that. That's it.
Yeah, I was very moved by this. I feel like Dan did such a great job with Spider-Boy. And speaking as someone who was like Spider-Boy and crossed my arms, like, I don't want this Dan Slott. I was won over by this, and I just wanted to say congrats to him. I hope he's proud of this because he really did an amazing job with his character, and this issue is a great example of that. This is unbelievable art, a very touching, smart story. Congratulations to Dan Slott and an impressive run.
Yeah, I like your comment, Alex, about how this just being a great story. Even beyond that, my takeaway was this felt like an old school Spider-Man story from like the 60s. And I feel like that's really what he's doing here is Spider-Boy for him is hearkening back to a young Peter Parker. And he's really taking all that stuff and bringing it to bear. And I think it's an exercise where he just wants to tell those stories and he's so good at it. So I feel like I wasn't always the biggest fan of Spider-Boy, but I do think this book really has a place in the Marvel Universe. I do think Spider-Boy will continue on after Dan Slott is gone from writing for Marvel for now anyway. So that's cool, and it was nice to read this last issue.
Yeah, it really was.
Undiscovered Country, number 31 from Image Comics, written by Scott Snyder and Charles Soule, art by Giuseppe Camuncoli and Leonardo Marcello Grassi. This book is back for its final arc after a really long break, but hey, they're a bunch of busy guys. Here, we are entering the final spiral and finally encountering Aurora as America is under attack. Our group of survivors who are trying to exploit America for various reasons, initially to find a cure for a disease, though that's not exactly why everybody is there, are now headed to space and headed to the moon. And I'll tell you what, when that happened, I was like, oh, of course they're doing that. Of course that's where they're ending it. That makes a lot of sense to end with space exploration, because that's sort of the peak of the American experiment, one might argue.
Wow, interesting take. So far, you mean?
The peak of the American experiment.
Wow.
Great, let's definitely get into it. Well, let me say this. Like, this book is wild. It has a lot to say about our modern world. And one thing I think I would love to be able to set this up, but we should have Scott and Charles on the show to talk about them wrapping up this book specifically, because I think I'd be very curious over the time span of when they first came up with this and to complete it, how their thinking of America has changed, how America has changed, how technology has changed. Because this book feels like it's dealing with, even though it's set in a future, it's about present day America and how we the icons we hold on to. So, like, to be able to talk to them about the experience of making this in this time period is really interesting to me. And I feel like this finale is about that. And probably why they've taken their time with it, because there's so much to think about here.
Yeah, I mean, this is really impressive, this story. We've been on a real adventure with these characters, and it's been all over the place in kind of the most impressive ways. And this kind of journey is very epic. And these writers did such a great job of, like, kind of planning this out. This is really getting good. I mean, at certain points I was like, what the fuck is happening? But this is really building towards what feels like an unbelievable ending. And I cannot wait for the next issue. Amazing art, amazing storytelling. This is very kind of now and triggering and crazy, but it's also really impressive.
Godzilla Escape the Dead Zone, #1 from IDW, written by Ethan Parker and Griffin Sheridan, art by Pablo Tunica. I do want to note at the front here, somebody hit us up online to say, hey, I don't think that book's coming out until August. IDW sent it over saying it was this week. Maybe there's a shipping issue. If you don't want to know about the book, turn away. But I really liked it. It is the second issue in the new Kaisei era for Godzilla, which we talked to Tim Seeley, who's writing the Godzilla book, about a couple of weeks back on the show. This is expanding on it and showing a little bit of the literal fallout from the introduction of Godzilla and other kaiju into the world, and we're exploring what that means in the titular Dead Zone. Maybe just in case, let's keep this like tangentially spoiler-free.
But no problem, because here's what I have to say about it. This is Pete's vision board. This is Pete's ideal life path, I want to say. The main character of this book is a future Pete. If Pete drinks the green ooze on the ground that he contemplates doing when he encounters it, hoping to mutate, this is the man that Pete will become, and that's all I could think about while reading this.
Well, Fawn, yeah, this is awesome. I'm having a blast with this. Really kind of enjoyed it. Don't want to spoil anything. Love the kind of twists. This is a cool idea. I didn't expect this when I started reading it, but was pleasantly surprised by the story and was kind of really sucked into this cool idea. So yeah, I want more, and I think this is awesome and really impressive art.
IDW's Kaisei era is big, monstrous, and full of awesome.
Yeah,
that's what I'd say. But I'd also say what I really actually like about this a lot is it is entirely different from the Godzilla book. They couldn't tonally and in terms of execution be more different. And I think that's kind of great. Like, you can get very samey, sorry, Pete, with Godzilla stuff. Like, they have the same rhythm after a certain point. So to get experimental and try different story modes is, I think, pretty neat. Very fun. Excited to follow this.
Excited to hear about the birth of our main character.
Yeah.
Just like the logistics of it, you know?
Yeah.
The conception.
Yeah. What?
You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I do know what you're talking about. Yes. Absolute Wonder Woman #9 from DC Comics, written by Kelly Thompson, art by Hayden Sherman. In this issue, Wonder Woman has found out about another Amazon versus Dr. Poison. They are inside a maze, and things get weirder and woollier from there as Wonder Woman heads inside and teams up with a Minotaur. Pete, you're a big fan of the series. Take it away.
Yes, this is just so awesome. Let's just take a moment and enjoy this unbelievable cover here. Yeah, fantastic start to this issue. Love the tone, love the intensity, the start of this. Unbelievable art. Worth it for the art alone. Not to sound like a broken record here, but whoo-wee, this is a blast. Just so much action. You get inside Wonder Woman's head, which JT Sizzle loves. And great last panel. I am having so much fun with this. This is one of my favorite events of all time. Absolute is just killing the game, making things fun and over the top and epic, and the art is really leading the way. I'm just I'm a kid in a candy store having the time of my life here.
Matt Kidd loves candy. I mean, I agree with Pete. This book is fantastic. It's reaching just next level power here of just like what I look forward to. It's like a more exciting version of the Prince Valiant comics that we grew up reading in the Sunday paper, in its steadfastness and commitment to being awesome. But I really want to just take a quick sidebar and say, if we could go back into the April episode of The Stack, where the Harley Quinn comic that had the scratch and sniff fart on it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Did we say that it's worth it for the fart alone? Because we should. I think it's probably worth us going back and
re-editing? 100%. Yeah.
Because I don't think we said that, and like it's really important for Pete to have said that.
Yeah. Pete, do you want to say it? If you say it now, we'll pause. You say it, and I'll go back and I'll add it into that box.
This is how we work. We do like a lot of re-edits.
Yeah, for sure. This is ADR. 3, 2, 1.
You're not going to do that, but I appreciate this bit. So worth it for the fart alone.
That's going to be hard to edit around, but
we got to cut out that first part where he doesn't want to do it.
Yeah, he kind of like he swerved into it, so it's precise. But at this point, I feel like I have enough material from Pete that I can make him say anything. So
the AI Pete will say whatever we want.
100%. I'm all in on AI. By the way. I love it.
Not so much on this end.
Yeah, it's great. No, it's great. It burns the environment, which is a thing that I hate, and it steals people's work, and I hate other people's work, so it's working out great for me.
Wow.
Anyway, Predator versus Spider-Man #3 for Marvel, written by Benjamin Percy, art by Marcelo Ferreira. In this issue, Spider-Man is finally fighting the Predator after 3 issues of goofing around like a total goof. There is a Predator.
Hot city.
Hot city.
Heat wave in this city.
Again, slightly easier to read this one, I think, but there is a Predator called Skinner who is on the loose, skidding people, and there are 3 other Yautjas who are after him, but taking a little break to try and kill Spider-Man in the meantime. We've been iffy about the series, I think. What did you think about issue 3?
I thought this was enjoyable. I think it kind of setting up this interesting idea to me. I'm a little worried about the slow build of it because it would be nice if we got to it. But I feel like Kraven and Spidey teaming up to kind of take on these 3 Predators is a great idea. And I want us to get there already. And I hope it does happen. But all that being said, this is well executed. It's a fun idea and great art. So what's not to love?
I agree. I'm surprised how long it's taken to bring our pieces together. Like Kraven, Spidey, and these Predators haven't really come together yet, and I think it's time. I'm surprised they're reserving it for the last issue. But the part of this comic that I continue to be a huge fan of is the Mary Jane portions. And in this one, there's some dude is like, uh-oh, the Skinner's coming. I'll hide you in this pile of rats, which is disgusting. We get to really feel it when it happens. And I look forward to Peter being like, where is my girlfriend? Oh, in the rat pile?
Oh, in the rat pile, hiding safely because it's actually a smart move to hide under a pile of rats.
It's perfect for when the Predators come to get us.
Yep.
We're taking everyone down with us. Number 4 from Image Comics, written by Matthew Rosenberg, art by Stefano Landini. This is about a young girl who is the daughter of a supervillain who was killed by a James Bond-style hero, and the robot that has her father's brainwaves. In this issue, things get kind of worse for them as they try to explore a small town, and then they maybe get better by the end as she meets up with the lady who is her mom, and then they get worse again. I love the tone of this series in particular. It's so offhand, but at the same time, everything is important as it happens to the characters, and I think that's a very hard balance to strike.
Well, it's written like a James Bond style novel where like there isn't a lot of emotion, but the emotionality then gets to sneak up on us because we're seeing it and we like these characters. The father-daughter relationship that we see based on built around these two characters we see on the cover, the robot and the daughter of a supervillain, is great, and the moments that happen here are really great. Great surprise at the end of this issue.
Yeah,
I really like the art. Really matches the tone in a nice way. Great comic.
I agree. This is a great comic. There's a lot of crazy, fun twists and turns, some oh shit moments for sure. But yeah, the relationship here between this lady and the robot is just it's epic and a lot of fun. So this is a blast.
Tramps of the Apocalypse, number 1 from Dark Horse Comics by Alice Darrow. This is set in a post-apocalypse where men and women have been separated into dudes and ladies, bodacious babes, if you will.
What?
It is over the top and satirical, following a group of women who just want to kill men before they destroy society again or enslave them, and the men who want to take them down. I thought this was a lot of fun.
Super fun. The tone of it took me back to being like, I don't know, I want to say like 14, 15, and watching Mystery Science Theater, the Rock and Roll Wrestling Women versus the Aztec Mummy. These like, it's the tone of it is those old school movies, like an old school movie trailer, where it's just like grainy footage of women beating up men, and it's like, these women have gone mad. And it's just great. It has such a nice satirical edge to it. The art is in the style, and I enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, I agree. This is very enjoyable, and the men are like so douchey in here. It's very funny. Yeah, great
one
art.
dude pisses like a full like bucket of water in a couple panels. I was alarmed by the sheer volume.
Oh wow, the stream really fucked you up a little bit.
Really big stream, and it's like sort of flowing rather than rushing. You know.
Okay.
That's normal.
That's
normal. If you're not doing that, you should have yourself checked out.
Yeah, you should have somebody checked out. Maybe you got
Would you guys mind taking a look?
Right now? Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all.
All right, give me a minute.
I always do telehealth.
I also thought it was funny that only VWs survived the apocalypse. You got a bug and then a bus here as the only cars of the future. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, only bugs will survive. DC X Sonic the Hedgehog, number 4 from DC Comics, written by Ian Flynn, art by Adam Bryce Thomas. The Team Sonic has been banished to the Justice League universe. In this issue, we're catching up with the Justice League, who's trying to reassemble the Chaos Emeralds to join the two universes together. Guess what happens by the end? But over the course of it, they battle the baddies in the Sonic universe. This continues to give you, I think, what you want out of this crossover, and I'm having a fun time.
I guess my biggest comment is this is definitely one of my top 10 interactions between Superman and Dr. Eggman.
Really?
You know
Could you? I don't want to make you do all 10. Could you do like the top 5, maybe?
Top 5? Oh yeah, of course. Absolute Dr. Eggman, number 5.
100%.
Really good. Sort of dark.
He was large. He was a large Eggman, though.
Yeah. Marvel Knights Dr. Eggman, which was sort of like very street level.
It was confusing, though.
Yeah.
Why was Marvel putting that out?
Oh, it was more about he goes where he wants, Dr. Eggman.
Oh, okay.
That's true.
Dr. Eggman's perverted sexual hour, which was Again,
that's number 3 for you.
Yeah,
that's
and
number
Superman
3.
Superman really shows up. He really shows up there. It's very strange.
Yeah.
And then this is number 2. In the list.
Wow, controversial. Wait, you're not putting the Egg-Malgam universe at number 1, are you?
Yes, that was the way they were able to combine Superman and Dr. Eggman. But it's right in the name. It's amazing.
I do agree that this is fun.
Please.
I like the kind of, we don't see the DC characters in this kind of Sonic look, this anime kind of thing. So a little cartoonish, but it's still very enjoyable. I thought the Batman kind of versus and the Flash one was really enjoyable. Flash was just having a blast in this comic, so it was fun to see.
Can I say my one disappointment with this issue is last issue, which I thought was great. All the Sonic characters in the DC universe were like, I guess we have to dress up as the Justice League. The fact that the Justice League didn't become hedgehogs this issue was a bit of a bummer.
Wow. I agree with you. That's not cool.
No. Quid pro quo. The Thing number 2 from Marvel, written by Tony Fleece, art by Justin Mason. The Thing is helping out his childhood bully track down his missing niece, I want to say, and in the process running into a bunch of overpowered villains in the Marvel Universe. This issue, per the cover, he runs into Bullseye and then a couple of other folks as well. Pete, I know you're a big fan of this, so what do you think?
You got to be Tony fleecing me over here. I love this. This was so much fun. Bullseye trying to fuck with Ben Grimm, and that whole, he's giving him a razor cut on his gums. He's trying to shoot his eyeballs. So fun. I feel like that was a cool kind of idea and well executed. I just felt like this was really just kind of an enjoyable, great use of the Thing, and such a great story to kind of Ben kind of track down the missing niece and kind of get to the bottom of this. I felt like the tone of this, the art style, it was all working together. I felt like this was such a great issue. One of my favorites in the stack this week.
Wow, there it is. You don't see a lot of Thing Bullseye crossovers.
You
so
don't.
Nice to see it when you get it here. I do love the issues of Fantastic Four where Ben has to go do some Yancey Street stuff.
Oh yeah.
So that's what we're getting a lot here. He just throws on a trench coat for some reason and walks around the city and no one bothers him. Like he's just.
You guys know in New York, totally that's how it is.
Yeah, totally. You can really vanish.
Yeah.
I really like this a lot, not to reiterate too much of what you guys said, but I did also really like the Bullseye fight. I thought that was a lot of fun and creatively executed. I also like the idea of this bully being like, I'm really sorry about what I did. There's a good joke in here where he's like, actually, but I'm the one person who's ever beaten up the Thing.
Yeah, that was fun.
You don't expect that. You usually expect we were friends in childhood and we got back together. Having people who were antagonistic figuring out how to work together for the greater good creates more dramatic tension. So
it shows growth.
Universal nice. Monsters, The Mummy, number 4 from Skybound and Image Comics by Faith Erin Hicks. This is the final issue of this series, adapting the classic Mummy movie. Here, the Mummy and his bride are finally getting together, but there are some twists and turns before the end. I really like the series. I really like Faith Erin Hicks' art quite a bit. This went farther than the YA book that it was in the first issue, which I thought was really strong. But there's still really strong romance in here and tragedy. And I don't know, I love being reminded, and I think we talked to her about this, but I love being reminded that, these movies are not jump scare horror movies. They're more romantic tragedies, and that comes through nicely in this issue.
Yeah, I mean, this issue is really about communication between your loved ones here. You know what I mean? Because it's like if you're going to go through centuries murdering people for love, you got to make sure that other person is on board because, you go through all this genocide, and then finally get to the one you love, and she's like, yo, bro, this is a little over the line. Your plans all go up in smoke. So yeah, I felt like this was an interesting take and really kind of pushed the limits of a love story in an interesting way. So I kind of tipped my hat to the creativity of it. I felt like it was really well executed, and the art is fantastic.
I feel like when we talked to Faith Erin Hicks, we talked about the nature of horror and finding that mix between horror and a really emotionally driven story. And I feel like this last issue especially delivered on that. All of the stuff that happens is driven by our main characters, even the mummy, the villain, quote unquote. It's just an emotional smash up between them rather than just like horror or murder for no reason, and that's really nice to see because it's really it works as the conclusion of this, and it feels like a big climactic payoff for the series.
VR Troopers #1 from Boob Studios, written by Margaret Scott, art by Sebastian Perez. Is a spin-off from the Power Rangers series, bringing the classic TV show to comic books. I don't know anything about this. I don't know if you guys do. These are not Power Rangers.
Well, they're definitely not. And I was sort of like, so what's the deal here?
Right. They use VR, which is virtual reality, which is cool.
Wow, that's really cutting edge, though, Alex. How do they have access to it?
I don't know. They probably at a friend's house. They played it at a friend's house.
Oh, that's really cool. But so I don't know. It does feel like there's a larger story here because it's set. It's not like this is like their chance to tell a Power Rangers like story because they couldn't be in the Power Rangers universe. The whole story takes place in the Power Rangers universe.
Yeah, I know. I read the issue. Yeah.
So what is that?
I don't know.
Pete, I feel like we're looking to you, but I don't know why.
This is like, did this feed your inner child, Pete?
Yeah. Sometimes when you guys miss stuff, I'm the guy who's like, seen it. But yeah, VR Troopers, I was not aware of this. I was a Power Rangers fan. I didn't know of this knockoff. So great art, but this missed me a little bit.
Great.
Because of the lack of understanding of it.
Yes, so this is to get to this actually as a comic book beyond any glibness or anything like that. I think when you are, and we're seeing this a lot with a lot of these properties, would be like, you guys remember this thing from 1963 that had 2 episodes, right? That's your favorite thing ever? And for some people, 100%. I'm sure, in fact, I know for a fact there are huge VR trooper heads out there that love this stuff. I am not. So not to be, you need to cater to me specifically, but I would argue or venture a guess there are more of us who do not know what VR troopers are than do. And even though they've had a couple of previews here and there, with a VR Troopers #1, I need to understand, what is this? What's cool about this? And why do I want to keep reading it? And right now, I feel like I read the 15th issue of an ongoing story of people that look like Power Rangers, kind of, but are not Power Rangers.
Well, and especially since so much of the Power Rangers comic universe lately has been about deepening the mythology of it. And I feel like these characters could have a real spot there. So, like get us there. I think, like, looking it up really quickly, like, the reason this show is only like 2 seasons on television is because they ran out of footage, Japanese footage from that they were just like cribbing and adding VO to. And this led to, followed up on Power Rangers and led to Big Bad Beetleborgs, which are 3 words that I know in my brain.
I don't know. This is definitely a much bigger topic about how comics are treating nostalgia right now, and I think some are completely missing the mark on this sort of thing. Like, I think there's a big difference. Everybody saw the Energon universe come out. It was like, we can make money on that. And what they're missing about what worked, at least initially, about the Energon universe is like, despite what we constantly make fun of Pete for, at the very beginning, it was like, what is G.I. Joe? Let's figure that out of the basic and give you like a cool modern take on it. What is Transformers? Here you go. This is what it is in the modern era. You can't just, again, cater to people who at this point are much, much older. You got to figure out what's your in, what's the story you're telling, what's the emotional hook for this thing if you have no relationship to it whatsoever. Because particularly with this stuff, like this does not have the deep bench, like we're saying, of G.I. Joe or Transformers.
Well, and let's say, like, the reason this was a TV show was because they took footage from another TV show and was like, how can we try to repackage this into something else? And then they sort of like squirted out a couple seasons of a show just to try to get some eyeballs on it. And it feels like there's a little bit of that energy carrying over here where they're like, this is like Power Rangers. Let's do a comic but like that. But they just have way more on-ramps here with like creative to get it into the universe.
Well, and I also think if you have a property like this that, and I'm sure there's some very angry VR Troopers fan who's listening to the podcast right now, but if you have something like this, you actually have it more wide open because people don't really have a relationship or know this stuff. So you can be like, what's the basics? What's fun and interesting about this? Let's follow that and make it clean. But this is not to lump on this book too much. I just do think it is something that is endemic to the industry right now that needs to be figured out a little bit.
Well, and like I didn't really dislike this book. I was like, surely I just felt like, oh, there must be something here tying it into Power Rangers, or it felt like it was lacking a larger sort of maybe more meta presence or a commentary on why rebooting this property. But we just never got there. It felt like a pretty straight reboot of a show that wasn't super successful in the 90s.
Green Lantern Dark, number 5 from DC Comics, written by Tate Bromble, art by Werther Del Edera. We are following our Green Lantern as she goes and brings light all over the land. This issue, the villain is mustering her forces. Meanwhile, our heroes are telling their origin stories and bonding as they go. I continue to really love this series. It is very fable-like, very fairy tale-like. Pete, I know you've been liking it as well, I believe.
Yes, I very much do. I also really love the art. You get a lot of pages in this. You get so this is a bigger issue, which is great. Love all the monsters. The Bat Wraith is so cool. You got a really badass Green Lantern story here. And great team, solid issue.
I've really enjoyed this more as it's gone on. I think leaning into the mythological elements has really helped to take it out of just being something that feels very close to something that's killing the children, and into something that feels like it's truly establishing itself as its own thing.
And I could be wrong about this. Maybe I'm making this up because I did not look it up, but we get a glimpse of the Green Lantern's origin story. And I believe the Green Lantern she got the light from is the original Tangent Universe Green Lantern, but I could be wrong. So neat little Easter egg there. So if not, I don't know what I'm talking about. The Uncanny X-Men number 16 from Marvel, written by Gail Simone, art by David Marquez and Luciano Vecchio. In this issue, our 4 outliers are trying to figure out whether they should become the avatar of death. The X-Men are trying to save them. And meanwhile, the town of New Orleans has declared that they are mutant friendly. So thanks, guys.
Oh, that's nice.
I've been really enjoying this arc. I feel like this is a great mission statement for this book, where it gets into some interesting history, real sense of place, establishing this book as like you said, Alex, really in New Orleans, in the South, dealing with the issues and history around that. Really cool. And it's getting a little bit away from some of the larger X-Men, usual areas of the universe to cover into weirder places. And I think that's a cool move.
I agree. Unbelievable art and action. Some great kind of Man-Thing moments here. You get them kind of just throwing them into the battle, which was a cool panel. Some really badass giant monsters here. And then a sad little Man-Thing panel at the end, just kind of looking around confusing. But interesting book.
The Department of Truth, number 31 from Image Comics, written by James Tynion IV, art by Letizia Cadanici. This is a interlude to the main story of the book, focusing on rumors that spread from the internet, specifically Mr. Hat. And boy, it ties into a lot of James Tynion's interests, I think.
Well,
it brings them together.
Reading this comic, I was like, is James Tynion just telling a super story across all of his books? Because this is so connected to World Tree in a way that, like, I was like, oh, it's all one thing. How and it's updating a lot of. Department of Truth has been obsessed with the history of pushing false ideas into culture and having, because they are believed by enough people, they manifest. Great idea. We've really explored that through politics a lot. This issue jumps into the internet, which is literally something that World Tree is doing. It's almost the same idea of this comic. And it made me want to look for more connections between other all of James Tynion works, because it does feel like he is telling us one big story.
Can I throw out an alternate theory?
Yes.
Maybe he's just writing too many things and they're all becoming the same.
How dare you.
Wow. I mean, he's also doing the...
How dare you?
They're all great. I love all of them. But, like, this definitely felt like, well, I'm very obsessed with the internet thing and I got to write these issues in Department of Truth. And also I'm writing these true weird books over at Dark Horse. Yes. I'll just do this one over here. This is the Mr. Hat story. We're going to get Letizia Cadanici in for a couple of issues, which, mind you, love her.
Great.
I mean,
really good.
I mean, look at this cover. I mean, that's just so scary and freaky and unbelievable. Such a great tone. Yeah, we get this Black Hat kind of creepy story is here. This is all creepy as fuck. But an unbelievable line here. It came from the internet. Oh, just such a cool line.
Like so many things. But I do think that is one way to look at it, Alex. But it's also maybe like it could be a business decision. It depends on how nihilistic you want to be. To write this issue and be like, oh, you like this? Maybe you should check out this other book that is this.
Yeah.
Like there's a chance it's that, or there's a chance that like this does actually match with a lot of the themes of Department of Truth. It's just surprising to have such a quick upshift to doing a very modern version of those stories that they're telling. Set in the politics past, in the internet age, sort of internet culture, meme culture. That was just a swerve for sure.
Yeah. Don't forget your briefcase, number 1 from Bad Cave Studios, written by Elliot Rahal, art by Philip Sevi. This book makes some wild turns throughout the issue, which I was pleasantly surprised by. We start off following a Secret Service agent who is getting hired to hold the nuclear football. Then we cut over to a woman with a kid who seems like maybe he's a special needs kid, though they don't necessarily specify, who is very attached to his briefcase. You may be able to figure out where this is going, but you definitely have not figured out all of it. Great. Just a great political thriller. Really smart concept. I know I'm not mentioning what it is, but that's one of the pleasant surprises of reading this issue is it swerves, then it swerves again, and then it swerves a third time and ends in a place where it's like they're just off to the races.
Yeah, I was really pleasantly surprised by this book. I thought it was really nicely paced. The way that we just sort of step by step were walked into it. And then we get a nice, like, of course, that's what's happening here. The expected sort of turn in, the 7/8 of the way through the book. And then we get a second turn at the end that caught me off guard and really heightened the entire story experience. So really enjoyed this. This is a great, surprising pickup.
Yeah, I agree. The twists and turns are very enjoyable and impressive artistically what they're doing here.
Superior Avengers, number 3 from Marvel, written by Steve Fox, art by Luca Maresca and Kyle Hotz. In this issue, Doom's Superior Avengers come face to face with the regular Avengers. They really don't agree on stuff, I'll tell you what.
Oh, what?
Meanwhile, the Superior Avengers, we get the backstory of the Killmonger on the team and also find out a little bit more about their plan for Doom and the world. Justin, I think you've been liking this series, right?
Yeah, this This is it, I'm struck by two pages in this book. There's one where the set on the scene set on the Superior Avengers Quinjet, where it's Ghost, Abomination, Malekith, and Onslaught just like hanging out in the seating area, and I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. I wonder what those guys talk about. This Malekith just dropping some deep dark elf stuff.
Dark elf knowledge, yeah.
Really funny. And the other one is, there's a moment where Onslaught faces off against Scarlet Witch, and she says, "Who are you to wear that helmet? Do you know the great man whose name and legacy you mock?" And it's just funny, again, to talk about the evolution of our time as comic readers, that you have Scarlet Witch saying that Magneto, famous villain, she's like, "How dare you besmirch his clothing and look and vibe, Onslaught?"
Well, and is she... He's not even her father anymore, right? Or he is her father, but they're not mutants? I don't remember which.
We're in a phase of that, and I think there's another shoe to drop. The Scarlet Witch story that Steve Orlando was telling, I think, was getting to that, because Joseph was a character in that, the Magneto clone, I want to say, who was hanging out, and I feel like he was getting to something about that, and then that series has ended. So I don't actually know where we are with that.
Well, Scarlet Witch is famous for her love of licensed products, and so to see somebody else trying to rip off somebody is just
She's
going to
mad
set
about
her
the
off.
IP.
Yeah, it's going to set her off. She's a big defender of IP, and somebody's got to be. I thought this was a fun versus kind of battle. Spoilers, but sad to see Vision kill Ghost. Well, I was just starting to like her, so that's heartbreaking. But interesting stuff in here. I'll be interested to read more.
Really liked Kyle Hotz's art on the flashbacks to Killmonger's origin in particular.
Yeah.
I thought that was very good looking. Mr. Terrific, Year 1, Number 2 from DC Comics, written by Al Letson, art by Valentin Delandro. I'll tell you what, this book is going in some very surprising directions. It is definitely not just a straightforward origin story for Mr. Terrific, because first of all, once again, we start in the present as Mr. Terrific is trying to explore the current state of the DC universe. Then we jump back to the past, and we're getting some very mystical infused origin bits with Mr. Terrific, including the Spectre showing up.
Spectre stuff.
Among other things. Very surprised by this book.
Yeah. Well, I think that this book is pushing against expectations in a way that I think is really smart, especially for a character that I don't know how many people are like, how did Mr. Terrific get his little spheres?
Why does he wear that jacket? Did he buy it at a Hot Topic?
Does he love fair play so much? But it gets into some, like, there's this panel, this page where it's Mr. Terrific encountering the Spectre, and he's like, I don't believe in God. And Spectre's like, and yet I am here.
Yeah.
That's like heavy, interesting stuff to be telling in this. And I think this comic is going hard.
Yeah, just to jump in here a little bit and agree with what you're saying. I wrote down the line, I think it was like the next panel or whatever, where it says, guilt is like the shadow it casts when your light finds your pain. Holy shit, that's some deep stuff right there. Yeah, this is really impressive comic. I love the art. Interesting paneling. Sad story, but some deep shit, man. And Mr. T, I'm here for it.
There you go. The Seasons, number 5 from Image Comics, written by Rick Remender, art by Paul Azaceta. This is Pete's favorite issue of the week?
Yeah, one of them. Yeah, that's for sure. I was really blown away by this. We kind of get a lot of oh shit moments here. We're pulling for spring to kind of save everyone, but who's going to listen? You know what I mean? So we kind of get the reveal of the parents in this issue, so that was big. But yeah, really impressive mix of art and storytelling here. Art being the huge, just the panels, the frightening circus, all those frightening clowns and shit like that. But man, just artistically really impressive what's going on in this book.
We've seen Rick Remender write a lot of books that we love. And a lot of them go down a dark path early and then continue down a dark path. And we're like, surely he won't go any darker. And then he does. And then he punishes the characters. What I like about this book is it's pushing against it. It's a lot of bright, shiny colors. Paul Azaceda's art is very bright, great colors in this book. But the darkness that he's writing is there. And to frame it in this much more brightly colored eggshell, I think is awesome and brings out the layers in such a good way. I really like these characters. Great surprises at the end of the issue.
From the world of minor threats, welcome to Twilight #4 from Dark Horse Comics, written by Jerry Duggan, art by Mark Torres. This is the final issue of this anthology, showing us other parts of this world, focusing on second tier or third tier supervillains. Here we get a noir story about a guy who is a fixer, and he fixes things in interesting ways, but can he fix himself? I guess we'll find out.
Man.
Wow.
It's the hardest thing to do.
Good series.
Yeah,
it is a good series.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say this is really messed up and over the top, but really interesting. Tons of action, tons of twists and turns, amazing art. I love this very much, and more, please.
What I just like about this universe is they're finding new ways to take on different genre stories. Specifically here, we're getting into a noir story, and Jerry Duggan very good at this, but I feel like the whole team gets
Duggan.
Duggan. Sorry. Jerry Duggan very good at this, but the whole team feels like they're weighing in on this, and they've established a tone that I don't think is existing anywhere else in comics right now.
SpiderMan Wolverine #2 from Marvel, written by Mark Guggenheim, art by Kare Andrews. The big cliffhanger at the end of the last issue: Spider-Man and Wolverine had teamed up on a mission. Spider-Man broke into some files and saw video footage of Wolverine leading to his parents' death, specifically Peter Parker's parents' death back in the day from when they were spies. This issue, it is a battle royale between Spider-Man and Wolverine, as Spider-Man keeps punching Wolverine, is like, you killed my parents, and driving Wolverine to a berserker rage.
Which is dangerous. You shouldn't do
dangerous. This comic is crazy, and I say that complimentarily. I cannot believe we were talking about how it had pleasant 90s vibes in the first issue. A lot of that based on Kare Andrews' art, which I enjoyed. The end revelation definitely didn't see coming, but it was great and fun, even if it was very similar to the Civil War revelation. But man, the fight between Spider-Man and Wolverine in this issue is nuts.
So intense.
Spider-Man punches Wolverine's jaw off, and he's just there with his jaw wobbling.
And we see it a lot.
It's gross.
We see him with a loose jaw for multiple pages.
Yeah.
But, and it is cool. The action's wild. Kare Andrews' art is killing that.
Yes.
And it feels like a exaggerated 90s fighting game that we're inside. It's like being one of the spectators at a Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat fight in the game.
They think about?
It's fucked up that those Mortal Kombat people are just hanging out.
Mm-hmm.
I like it to be the person that jumps out and says babality is fucked up.
Oh man! But do you think that there actually are spectators? Do they make jokes "Hey, get me another virality," or something?
Yeah. Oh, they're having fun for sure.
Having a good time.
It makes more sense in Street Fighter, where a lot of them are just on a dock, and they're like, "Oh, look at these very intense people fighting." I guess I'll just continue waving my arm in this one particular way.
Wow, those guys fighting look very similar.
Hey, that guy can make electricity out of his body.
I do agree that this does have a Marvel vs. Capcom kind of feel a little bit with the art style and action, but I do think that this is a really intense idea that is kind of really put
Two
into
heroes
the
fighting,
ring.
you mean?
No, I think the idea that, Wolverine does have a dark past, and kind of like what we saw in Civil War, where we kind of had Bucky be like, yo, you did something that was out of pocket. We have kind of Wolverine being like, Yeah, I did some fucked up things. I kind of maybe remember this, but also, hey, we could be getting tricked here, and trying to reason with somebody when they're beyond angry is such a bad idea and very triggering for me. So this was just awful to see your parents fighting like this. So this was really hard. And,
you mean Spidey and Wolverine, or
yes.
Richard and May Parker?
No, Spider-Man and Wolverine, my actual
So
parents.
did they adopt you? How did that go?
Yeah, it was an adoption.
Did you take their last name?
Not official adoption, but it was kind of an adoption.
You're their little bub?
Yeah, they raised me. Anyways, that last panel scared the crap out of me, and I'm really worried, but that's the problem when you get somebody in berserker mode, it's hard to stop.
Shouts to the great footage that Richard and May Parker had as they were crashing in their plane. It's just great security cam footage. Amazing.
Very clear. Very well filmed.
Yeah, the cinematography was...
Especially for whatever year they died in, which I believe originally had to be like the 60s.
Yeah, famous
and
for
now
great
it's,
camera work.
Yeah, but I also do want to shout out more earnestly, the colors in this comic are excellent.
Yes, dude.
Whoever put Wolverine in his classic blue and yellow really earned their paycheck for this comic because it looks great and the colors really serve it.
Peacemaker presents The Vigilante and Eagly double feature number 4 from DC Comics, written by Tim Seeley and Rex Ogle, art by Mitch Gerads and Matteo Loli. Front story has Vigilante fighting back against a mob, I guess, crime family in his small town. Meanwhile, in the backup story, Peacemaker is being hunted for sport. Things are very violent and raunchy and rude, exactly as you'd want from a title like this.
Yeah, I mean, if you like the TV show, this does a great job of channeling that humor and that kind of sense in all the ways that you want. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Eagly, and you got a lot of great Eagly moments in here. Great art and action. Yeah, this is fun. This is just fun time.
It struck me. I really like these two stories packaged together in this comic. They complement each other well while being very different. It struck me in this, like, it's funny that the Vigilante one is first. Mm-hmm. When Peacemaker is the marquee character, and that story is
classic opening act, bro. You know what I mean? You don't have the closer go on first.
Yes,
come on,
that's
man.
true in what
stuff.
You're talking about, but in comics, it's specifically never true. You rarely have the backup go first, and I guess it is a double bill, and neither of these stories has status over each other. But I just I was struck by that. But I like both sides of this.
Sandwich.
Assorted Crisis Events, number 4 from Image Comics, written by Dennis Camp, art by Eric Zawadzki. This is an anthology book, and in this issue, we are getting a guy who is very quickly skipping through his life, missing all the important bits, or rather stopping at them, but nothing in between. I said this, I think, on the live show, but I think for me, I think this is the book of the year so far. It's upsetting every issue. The art is gorgeous. The layouts are gorgeous. This issue in particular, I think, he's played with some big ideas in terms of life and society over the first 3 issues. This one is so personal because I don't want to speak for you guys, but I do think it's a pretty common thing. I certainly felt it, of being like, oh my God, where did that year go? What even happened? How did I get here? And this taking that to the ultimate degree over the course of one comic book, letting a guy live out his entire life, is very real, very upsetting, very sad, but beautifully done.
Yeah, I agree. I do think it's beautifully done. The shading and the colors in this are really, really impressive. Yeah, this issue is sponsored by cigarettes. They'll probably kill you, or life will, but cigarettes might get you first. Yeah, this is very depressing and triggering in a lot of different ways, but also really impressive. And, welcome to Dennis Camp. You know what I mean? Be a camp counselor.
I agree with you, Alex. Like, I love this. We talk a lot about Ice Cream Man and some of the way those stories get under your skin in a more horrifying way. Assorted Crisis Events feels like it comes right at you, because there's not even a ton of comic book lay on here. This is just a direct, like, hey, isn't life like this comic? And that's great. Like, it started in a more genre way, the beginning of this comic, and it's really just moving through stories that feel like, oh, this is just the best story that I wanted to tell in this issue, and it's very affecting. Smoke them if you got them.
Who Are the Power Pals? Number 4 from Dark Horse Comics, written by Dwayne Murray, art by Ahmed Rafat. We had Dwayne Murray on the live show a couple of weeks back and talked to him about this book. Very fun Hollywood parody about 2 washed up actors who were on a superhero show back in the day that never really got to air, I believe. And they, years later, are trying to find viral success by putting on their costumes again, but end up in the middle of a whole crime thing. This issue was ridiculous, like very over-the-top comedy in even a bigger way than I think the previous issues, but very fun.
Yeah, I love the comedy in this. Like, really good runner of coughing up, a character coughing up stuff that they swallow to help them in a fight. Great runner. It really pays off at the end. It's one of those things like that last scene in Dumb and Dumber, which haunts me. When the bus pulls up.
Dude, you're
the
always
Sports Illustrated models. It haunts me. I was like, I've never felt a moment where I was like, can I stop this movie and help the characters do the right thing here? And that's what you feel like in this at the end of this. I'm like, just take the money, take the call. Please go do the thing. You could go do a thing, and they make a different choice. But I enjoyed this series from beginning to end.
Yeah, this is really fun, and the art's really a big part of that. It kind of really contributes to the tone of this fun, and these 2 dudes who are just, have some luck and these giant fights. And this is it's enjoyable and has just kind of a great feel to it. This book is great.
Deadpool, number 15 from Marvel, written by Cody Ziegler, Jerry Duggan, and Sanshiro Kasama, art by Roger Antonio, Andrea DeVito, Matteo Loli, and Hikaru Usagi. This is the legacy number 350, I believe. 350 of Deadpool, which is why I felt it was worth talking about this. We're getting 3 tales here. One tying up the current continuity of Deadpool. The middle one, Jerry Duggan story from back in the day. Or just, it's not a story from back in the day. It's set back in the day. And the third one is a Deadpool samurai story. There you go.
Yep.
That's it.
He says samurai. It really wasn't about samurais. But anyways, this is a fun celebration. Of course, I love all the shots of the covers and just a fun kind of collection of stories here. And, you love a Deadpool falling in love story. I'm a sucker for that, so very happy with that one.
I like this comic is just suffused right now with just 80s stuff. In a good way. I think that's really working. It's a nice evolution of the Deadpool tone from just being meta to being meta in a specific genre type of storytelling. We get in the backups, we get like a romance situation for Deadpool, which it reminded me of the Deadpool run where Deadpool was married, and I like Deadpool
Infinity
having...
Gauntlet? It was like they also did a thing where it was like online as well. It was a kind of
yes, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
she was like the queen of monsters.
That's it.
I really like that, and we get this sort of like fight potential flirtation with this character Kurami, which I like that. I hope they go in that direction with Deadpool, and we get at the end question mark. So maybe they will.
You'll Do Bad Things, number 4 from Image Comics, written by Tyler Boss, art by Adriano Turtolucci. This focuses on a writer who is beginning to suspect that he is somehow magically making the serial killings he's writing about come to life. That's not exactly what's happening here, as we find out by the end of the issue. But teaming up with a drag queen, he is trying to figure out how he can stop this from happening to anybody else. I there was one, I know I said this last month about this, but like there was one issue that was a little wobbly here on this book. I think it was issue number 2, but man, it has been off to the races with everything else. It is dark. It's upsetting. It's very in line, art style as well with Criminal. So if you're a fan of that, I think you're going to like this, though this leans content wise more towards the stuff that Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips have done for titles like Fatale and other runs. It's just more violent. And one of the most disturbing things I've ever seen happen to a dog happens in this issue.
Yeah. That was, I was swearing. I was swearing your name, Alex, when I had to read this. Yeah. Because you curate the stack, brah.
Oh, okay. I thought you were yelling my name because I had also skinned a dog and come over to your house and I was licking your hand and it took you like 3 minutes to realize it was me. And then I was like, hey man, happy birthday.
Don't paint that picture. Yeah, this
I'm sorry. I'm actually painting that picture on a canvas.
Also, I thought you'd be, I'm sorry, it's weird that you're prejudiced given that you worked for so long as a human sexual dog, Pete.
Yes, exactly. Let's
that's a made-up thing. So you don't be mad at me at something that you guys made up.
Right. All I did was skin a dog and come over to your house for a couple of minutes. You worked for, what, months, years down in New Orleans?
You know, when you're a human sexual dog, it's hard to keep track of time.
This is a fun bit. I'm really glad that this is happening. I did not like this book. It's a little too dark for my taste.
I think you're just mad because we brought up the dog stuff.
By the way, when you worked as a human sexual dog, did you have a sign on the wall that says it doesn't hurt to be a human sexual dog to work here?
I forgot. I did forget that when we talk about this, Pete does leave.
Yeah, Pete doesn't like this at all. I'm sorry, Pete.
He doesn't. That's a nice apology for a person not listening anymore. I enjoy You'll Do Bad Things. It is quite violent. I, in my mind, pair this book with We're Taking Everyone Down With Us because they're buddies. And they are quite different, but reading them together is nice.
Hey, Pete, just so you're back, so you know, I really apologized for everything, but Justin refused to.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Sounds like
Alex did sort of apologize. I never refused to, but I am refusing now.
Good to know.
In Bloom, number 5 from Boom Studios, written by Michael W. Conrad, art by John J. Pearson. This is the final issue of this series about a world where everybody blooms, meaning they turn into fungus or plant creatures, very similar to The Last of Us, except they can talk and think, and they're all part of a collective. But like The Last of Us, they also want everybody to also be part of that collective. And we're following a rogue cop who doesn't want to do that. This went so dark in this last issue. I don't know why these are all back to back. I'm sorry about that. But, oh my God, I cannot believe the places this went.
The way that he resolved, the choice he makes at the middle end of this book, I was like, okay, dude.
Hey, at least he's making choices, you know?
But it also, I was like, the way the book ends also is sort of like, yep, we're going to keep killing everybody. I was like, huh. I guess these are the characters I've been riding with this whole time. So there we are.
Pete?
Yeah, I mean, this is a lot of comics on this stack, and I'm super glad we're dealing with all these dark, fucked up ones, man.
All right, well, let's change it up a little bit and talk about Sleep number 2 from Image Comics by Xander Cannon.
Yes.
This is, I really love this book. The art style in here in particular, I think is gorgeous. It's all black and white except for lines of red, the character's glasses, some tattoos on an unhoused man, other little bits here and there. But we're following a guy who works at a coffee shop, but may be turning into something horrible at night. I think it's pretty fair to say that he is. And in fact, this is likely some sort of werewolf story. But the thing that's so interesting about this is the story takes place all the other times when he is not that thing. So thus far in 2 issues, we have not seen that. We've just seen the repercussions of that. And that makes it scarier, I gotta say.
The tension in this book is insane. Like they're doing, Xander's doing such a good job of just like ramping it up, and the character, we suspect that something's wrong more than the character does. He keeps maintaining innocence in a way that I'm like, come on, dude. Like, what? Mm-hmm. But that is enhancing the tension in a way that is really working.
Yeah, I mean, he's freaking out when he's talking to the cop there, so I think, like, he kind of knows, but it's, yeah, I agree with the Zelvatron. The use of red is just really impressive, and artistically, it's very cool. Yeah, but the tension of, like, dealing with the not showing us and we don't know, just like the character doesn't know, is such a kind of great way of playing with this tension, so just super smart, but pretty fucked up as well.
When I Lay My Vengeance Upon Thee, number 5 from Boom Studios, written by Gus Moreno, art by Jacob Rebelka. This is the final issue of this series, focusing on an exorcist and his exorcist trainee. Things go very badly for pretty much everybody and maybe the entire world by the end of the last issue here, as they try to stop a demon possession per the purview of their job. I really like the series. I thought the art was, I don't even know how to describe it, but good. It was good art.
Yeah.
It reminds me of something, and I can't put my finger on it right now, but I really like the story. It was complicated. It was dark. It felt very much in line with movies like The Exorcist and Omen that don't back away from this sort of thing. Spooky, scary skeletons.
Sing the whole song. Yeah, the art is very impressive. Fucked up story, but worth the voyage.
I feel like this book from the very beginning was like, hey, fucked up, and then the rest of it was like, see, and this final issue was very much like, see. So great, you really set me up and paid me off. Nailed it.
All right, let's talk about this next book, which I think we've been waiting all stacked to talk about, probably all three of us. Feral, number 14 from Image Comics, written by Tony Fleece, art by Trish Forstner and Tone Rodriguez. We've been following these cats in a pseudo-zombie apocalypse, specifically where all the animals have been infected. They have finally seemingly found a safe haven inside a massive pet store. Of course, per this sort of genre, things are even more horrible than you could possibly imagine with the cats that are surviving in there, who have formed a pseudo-religious society. But I believe the main thing we need to talk about is when
I've been waiting.
The two cats just make out like a bunch of humans. They just,
do cats kiss?
They don't. I looked it up.
Making out.
I looked it up. I almost didn't want to look it up because I'd
wait. You looked it up,
but I looked it up.
Podcast, or you just look it up in general?
I look it up every day to see if the information has changed.
Surely they're starting to kiss. The cats are kissing now.
Yeah, do cats kiss June 24th, 2025?
I mean, that the cat's sexual energy in this comic really spiked in this issue. It wasn't really there was like a full sexual encounter with two cats, and then other two cats also making out at the end. Yeah. So really, comic
in front of zombies, which is the weirdest part. You know what I mean? Like
the weirdest part was in front of the zombies.
I mean, that's not the mood. You know what I mean?
The two cats embracing each other and making out.
Yeah, like hugging each other
on their little cat lips, their little sandpaper tongues mingling.
Oh, that rough tongue to kiss. But I guess if your tongue's rough, it's fine.
You should, by the way, you guys should check out my cat erotica on AF3.
I'm not gonna.
It's not good, but you should check it out. I need
But there's a lot of it. You're saying there's crazy heavy volume.
Every time I don't get an answer that I want, searching for a Do Cats Kiss on a daily basis, I write a new story. They're all kind of the same.
I tell you what.
Hey, you're an artist.
Once the AI gets to the level, you're going to start getting heckled by Google, where it's just going to be like, stop searching for this. Yeah.
Uh-oh, we've hit a point in the stack where Pete's talking about a conspiracy theory I think he believes in.
I was worried because I saw this adorable cover, and I was just like, oh, man, what are they going to do to us?
Too cute?
And yeah, it's too cute, which is a great warning. But yeah, besides all the making out, we thought we were going to get a little reprieve from this pet food store because it's like, oh, great. all this food for them to eat, but then immediately ruins it with this whole kind of like regime and following orders and all this kind of stuff. So it'll be interesting to see how the gang makes it out of that, if they can stop making out for 5 minutes.
Been there.
I mean,
wait, I'm sorry. You've been in a zombie apocalypse before and couldn't stop making out?
Or you've made out with a cat.
Or have you been locked in a pet store and just started making out? Like, which one of these is true?
Sorry, do I have to decide? I can't tell the whole story at once.
If you could rank them like top 5, that would be great.
No.
I mean this legitimately. I really want to get Tony Fleece on the show and go through the thought process that led to 2 cats making out like humans, because I'm sure it was a discussion. It had to be, right? Like, they looked it up, or like, no, they just kind of bumped noses a little bit.
No, I think he might have just said, like, yeah, and the cats start making out, and then the artist.
Well, that's what I want to know. I want to know if, like, Trish Forstner and Todd Rodriguez went rogue. Did they? Or was this in the script? Did they talk about it?
You think they went rogue?
Or do you think they dressed up as cats and posed to make out and that kind of stuff?
That's definitely what I think happened. He got humans he had human sexual cats. That's okay, right? You ever chase a human sexual cat?
Yeah. Did you have
Your
one like
greatest
across
enemy?
the street in New Orleans where you worked?
Here's the thing. Does Pete get mad enough to walk off when we talk about, so this is different? This is pretty different?
It's very different. Human sexual cats are entirely different from human sexual dogs.
Yeah.
It's a totally different thing. It doesn't, you don't have to be a human sexual cat to work here.
Minor Arcana number 8.
I don't know why I'm having a problem with the end of that. It just doesn't seem right.
Yeah.
Minor Arcana number 8 from Boom Studios, written by Jeph Lemire, art by Letizia Cadanici, once again stepping in for Jeph Lemire on this issue. We're following a psychic who is reopening her tarot business and exploring her new powers. This was a really sweet issue here, I thought, and very timely for Pride Month, as our our main character, doesn't explicitly tell a character who is struggling with identity issues what's going to happen, but you get to see this character go through what's called an egg crack, among other things, and a vision. And I thought it was really lovely the way that it was done in the issue.
Yeah, I agree with you. This was a nice... when we first started reading this, like in the first issue, I talked about how the whole comic had like a sort of a darkness or a negativity to it because our main character was so mad, and they've slowly just like built out of that to the sweetness of this issue. And this issue also just feels like a pivot with some of the other storytelling elements that are coming in here. So the progression this comic has made emotionally is really, for our main character, is really interesting to me.
Yeah, I agree. Sweet art and a sweet story, and I'm an empty. I'm on empty.
I can tell. Hyde Street. Luckily, this is the last one. Hyde Street, number 7.
I'm on empty.
Help me. Hyde Street, number 7 from Ghost Machine and Image Comics, written by Geoff Johns, art by Ivan Rice and Danny Miki. Pranky is going after the Hollywood monster, if I remember the name of the character correctly. It was a big old Frankenstein dude, and you need a monster to catch a monster, but it turns out there might be even a bigger monster out there. Yeah. I thought this was a particularly good issue of this series. We've hit a little bit of a rhythm so far with Pranky coming in and becoming the main character here, but this added some really nice emotional nuance to the story that I thought was very well done.
Yeah, I agree. This was a great issue. The line is, "I like monsters, just not your kind." Oh, such a great line. And we saw Pranky, saw the real villain here, and kind of turned the table. So very happy with that outcome. Amazing art. This story, or this comic, really does such a great job of coming up with creative ways and interesting ways to kind of use these characters that are both surprising and fun to kind of go along the ride with them. So yeah, very impressive.
Geoff Johns is just having so much fun with this comic. You can see it top to bottom. the way he starts this book and the way it moves into the reveal later, like it feels like the most creative expression that I've seen from Jeph in a long time. So it's really cool to see.
And that is it for the stack. If you'd like to support this podcast and all the podcasts we do, patreon.com/comicbookclub. Also, we do a live show every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. to Facebook and YouTube. Come hang out. We would love to chat with you about comic books, Apple, Spotify, Android, or the app of your choice. To subscribe, listen, and follow the show, comicbookclublive.com for this podcast and many more. Until next time, we'll see you at the Comic Book Club.
Gas up. We got another stack coming in 7 short days, Pete.